The morning sun streamed through the glass facade of First National Bank as Marcus Thompson pushed his cleaning cart through the marble lobby. At 44, Marcus had worked the early morning shift for 3 years now, arriving before dawn to ensure the bank opened spotless for its customers, the distinctive tattoo on his forearm. A compass rose with an all-seeing eye at its center, often drew curious glances from the bank employees. Most assumed it was just another piece of artwork, perhaps a remnant from a more reckless youth. They had no idea it represented something far more significant. Marcus had earned that tattoo 12 years ago, after completing his second tour as a Navy SEAL in Afghanistan. The compass symbolized finding one's way home, while the eye represented the vigilance needed to protect others. It was a mark of honor. Though Marcus rarely spoke of those days. These days, his focus was on his 13-year-old daughter, Sarah, who was battling leukemia with the same courage he'd once seen in his fellow soldiers. Every dollar he earned went toward her treatments. Every quiet morning mopping floors was time spent planning how to make her smile when he got home. The bank employees knew Marcus as the quiet janitor who did his job well and kept to himself. They didn't know about the Purple Hearts in his dresser drawer, or the commendations for valor that Sarah sometimes pulled out to show her friends. On this particular Tuesday morning, 4 young tellers gathered near the customer service desk, their voices carrying across the polished lobby as Marcus worked nearby. "Did you see that tattoo again?" whispered Jennifer, a recent college graduate who'd been working at the bank for 6 months. "So unprofessional. I mean, who gets an eyeball tattooed on their arm?" Her colleague, Lisa, giggled softly. "My mom always said you can tell everything about a person by their tattoos. Probably means he's been in trouble with the law or something." Marcus kept his head down, continuing his work. He'd heard whispers like this before, at Sarah's school, at the grocery store, from people who saw the ink and made assumptions about the man beneath it. He'd learned long ago that some battles weren't worth fighting with words. The third teller, Amanda, shook her head. "I just think it's weird how he's always so quiet. Like, what's he hiding, you know?" "Probably ashamed of his past," Jennifer added, her voice carrying that particular tone of youthful certainty. "I mean, look at him. Middle-aged guy working as a janitor, covered in tattoos. Not exactly a success story." Marcus paused in his mopping. Not from anger, but from a deep weariness. If only they knew that this failure had once carried wounded comrades to safety under enemy fire, had earned the respect of men and women who understood what true courage looked like. But he thought of Sarah, waiting at home for him to return with stories about his day, and continued his work in silence. At exactly 9:47 a.m., 3 men in dark clothing burst through the bank's front entrance. The leader, his face partially concealed by a hood, shouted commands that froze everyone in place. "Nobody move! This is a robbery! Everyone get on the ground!" The bank employees, including the 4 tellers who had been gossiping moments before, immediately dropped to the floor, their faces pale with terror. Customers scattered, some crying, others too shocked to make a sound. But Marcus, still holding his mop, didn't drop to the ground. Instead, something in his posture shifted. The quiet janitor disappeared, replaced by someone who had faced far worse threats in far more dangerous places. His trained eyes quickly assessed the situation. 3 men, likely inexperienced based on their nervous movements and poor positioning. The leader was distracted, shouting at the bank manager. The other 2 were watching the customers but had positioned themselves poorly, blocking each other's lines of sight. Marcus noticed something else, something that made his blood run cold. Through the glass office wall, he could see Bank President Catherine Walsh, a woman who had always treated him with kindness and respect. trapped in her office as one of the robbers moved toward her. In that moment, Marcus wasn't thinking about the whispers or the judgment. He was thinking about a promise he'd made long ago, to protect those who couldn't protect themselves, moving with the silent precision that had once made him invaluable in hostile territory. Marcus positioned himself behind a marble column, the compass tattoo on his arm, that symbol of finding one's way, seemed to pulse with purpose. "Ma'am," he called out to Catherine in a voice that carried absolute authority. "When I say move, get behind your desk and stay low." The lead robber spun toward Marcus's voice, confusion replacing confidence. "You! Janitor! Get on the ground!" But Marcus was already moving, using his mop handle as leverage. He swept the legs of the nearest robber, sending him crashing to the marble floor. In one fluid motion, he disarmed the second man, his military training taking over as if 12 years hadn't passed at all. The leader, now realizing this was no ordinary janitor, raised his weapon toward Marcus. But Catherine Walsh, following Marcus's earlier instruction, had triggered. The silent alarm from behind her desk, the sound of approaching sirens filled the air. "It's over," Marcus said calmly, his eyes never leaving the remaining robber. "Police are 30 seconds away. You can leave now, or explain to them why you chose this bank on this particular morning." The remaining robber, faced with a situation spiraling far beyond his control, dropped his weapon and ran, leaving his unconscious accomplice behind. As police officers flooded the lobby, the bank employees slowly stood, their eyes wide with disbelief. The quiet janitor they dismissed and gossiped about had just saved them all. Jennifer, the teller who had mocked his tattoo just minutes earlier, approached Marcus with tears in her eyes. I don't understand," she whispered. Who are you?" Marcus looked at his tattoo, then back at her. "Just someone who believes that we're all here to take care of each other," he said quietly. "The ink. It's a reminder of a promise I made a long time ago." Catherine Walsh, shaken but unharmed, walked over to Marcus. "Thank you," she said simply. "You saved our lives." Marcus nodded, already thinking about getting home to Sarah, about telling her that sometimes, when it matters most, ordinary people are called to do extraordinary things. Later that afternoon, as news of the incident spread, the bank employees learned the truth about their quiet janitor, about his military service, about his daughter's illness, about the daily heroism of a man who chose service over recognition, duty over praise. The tattoo that had once been a source of whispers and judgment became a symbol of something else entirely, a reminder that courage comes in many forms, and that we should never assume we know someone's story based on what we see on the surface. Because sometimes, the most remarkable people are hiding in plain sight, mopping floors and changing the world. One quiet act of service at a time. True strength isn't always visible on the surface, and sometimes, the people we overlook are the ones who will stand up for us when it matters most.